Before we begin, I want to take a moment and thank our monthly members. You help to fuel the enlightening education that benefits many around the world. Your support enables S.E.E.K to continue creating content, providing a path for all spiritual seekers. Support us with a monthly membership on YouTube, Patreon, or Ko-Fi at Join S.E.E.K, or on Facebook at Join S.E.E.K1. Become a member and you will see your name in future videos. Thank you. Sikhism stands as one of the world's youngest major religions, yet within its luminous teachings lie echoes of ancient mystical truths, shared among humanity's oldest sacred spiritual systems. Today, we'll journey through its origins, sacred texts, philosophy, and esoteric dimensions, revealing how Sikh wisdom bridges devotion, experience, and spiritual union in profound universal ways. Sikhism, founded in the late 15th century CE in the Punjab region, emerged as both a spiritual and social reformation under the guidance of Guru Nanak, whose message of divine unity challenged established hierarchies and divisions. Guru Nanak was an Indian spiritual teacher, mystic, and poet, born in 1469 CE, and regarded as the founder and first guru of Sikhism. After Guru Nanak, Sikhism evolved through 9 additional successive human gurus, culminating in the eternal guru, the sacred scripture known as the Granth Sahib. In the Sikh religion, the word guru is not denoted to its usual meaning, such as teacher, expert, guide, or a human body, but is composed of 2 words, gu and ru. Gu means darkness, and ru means light. Together, a guru is the term for light that dispels all darkness, which is why the Sikh sacred text, the Granth Sahib, also carries this title. At its heart, Sikhism proclaims the oneness of God, the equality of all beings, and the pursuit of truth through meditation, selfless service, and remembrance of the divine name. The tradition blends contemplative mysticism with everyday engagement, uniting spiritual realization and social responsibility. Its spiritual practices resonate with patterns found in Sufi mysticism, Hindu bhakti devotion, and the introspective meditations of Buddhist insight. The Sikh Gurus built a living community called the Panth, where worship joined work, and divine realization expressed itself through compassion and justice. Over time, Sikh doctrine developed profound metaphysical structures of inner awakening, divine love, and the transcendence of ego through Naam Simran, the term referring to the remembrance of the sacred name. To understand Sikhism is to glimpse the universal call toward union with the infinite, the same luminous thread woven through every esoteric spiritual system, from Kabbalah or Kabbalah to Hinduism, Neoplatonism to Taoism, Gnosticism to Shintoism, Hermeticism to Sufism. To begin this journey, we look to the origins of Sikhism, its founder Guru Nanak, and the spiritual explosion he initiated in a time of great religious complexity. His revelations were not born in isolation, but part of a perennial dialogue, the mystical conversation echoing across cultures and centuries. The story of Sikhism begins in 1469 CE, in the village of Talwandi, now Nankana Sahib in modern Pakistan, where Guru Nanak was born into a Hindu family amidst the rich cultural confluence of Islamic, Hindu, and devotional influences that defined medieval Punjab. From his earliest years, Nanak demonstrated a profound spiritual sensibility, questioning ritualized religion and the hollow mechanics of caste, creed, and superficial piety. His enlightenment experience, often described as his mystical disappearance into the waters of the river Bain, led to his revelation: there is no Hindu, no Muslim, all are children of the One. This declaration distilled the teaching that would define Sikhism's ethos: S.E.E.K, Onkar, meaning one reality, or the divine is one. The phrase S.E.E.K Onkar stands as the cornerstone of Sikh metaphysics, encapsulating the unity of creation and creator, the transcendent and immanent being known as Waheguru. Linguistically and symbolically, S.E.E.K Onkar parallels ancient mystical formulations, the monistic Brahman of Vedanta, the Ein Sof of Kabbalah or Kabbalah, or the Tao of the Taoists, all expressions of the ineffable unity underlying apparent multiplicity. Within Sikh cosmology, Waheguru is not distant, but dynamically present in every atom and breath. The task of the seeker is to awaken this awareness through remembrance, meditation, and service. Guru Nanak's path shares affinities with Sufi mystics like Rumi and Rabia, who taught union through love and the dissolution of self. But where Sufism often focused on the interior life of the ascetic, Sikhism transformed mystical realization into social action. Nanak established the principles of Naam Japna, or remembering the divine name, Kirat Kurni, or honest living, and Vand Chakna, or sharing with others, a triadic ethic mirroring the esoteric idea of harmony among inner contemplation, outer virtue, and communal welfare. These are not abstract ideals but living alchemical processes. Each act, thought, and word becomes a crucible in which the lead of the ego is transmuted into the gold of divine unity. After his illumination, Guru Nanak traveled across Asia, the Middle East, and even Tibet, engaging in direct discourse with saints, monks, and scholars of diverse faiths. His journeys, known as adasis, serve as the Sikh equivalent to pilgrimages found in other mystical systems, not as acts of piety towards sacred geography, but as quests to reunite humanity's fragmented spiritual wisdom. In this sense, Nanak acts as both reformer and reconciler, embracing truths from all sources yet distilling them through direct experience of the divine, a rejection of dogma in favor of awakened consciousness. The hymns composed by Guru Nanak, later compiled within the Guru Granth Sahib, display a lyrical fusion that borders on the Entheogenic. Guru Nanak's poetry evokes the ecstatic intoxication of divine presence, comparing the remembrance of Naam to wine that dissolves ego and reveals the hidden beloved within all. This theme resonates with ancient Vedic Soma hymns, Sufi poetic metaphors of wine and drunkenness, and even the Buddhist notion of tasting the nectar of immortality called Amrita in meditative absorption. In every case, spiritual intoxication reflects the dissolution of separateness into cosmic unity, an experience that transcends both language and ritual. As Guru Nanak's teaching matured, his community began to crystallize around the concept of Sangat, the holy fellowship. The Sangat is not merely a congregation, but a microcosm of divine unity in practice, a social embodiment of the metaphysical idea that the divine dwells within collective harmony. Its mirror form, Pangat, the communal dining practice where all sit together regardless of status, is symbolically and socially revolutionary. In an age ruled by caste division and religious exclusivity, Sikhism's Langar embodied the unitive vision of the infinite manifesting equally in all. Langar is the 500-year-old tradition of a free communal vegetarian kitchen operating in every Gurdwara or Sikh temple worldwide, serving all people regardless of religion, caste, gender, or economic status. Initiated by Guru Nanak, its purpose is to promote equality, community, and humility by having everyone sit on the floor together. To clarify, Langar is the free vegetarian community kitchen and meal itself, while Pangat, meaning row, is the practice of sitting together in a line on the floor to eat that meal, regardless of caste, creed, or status. From an esoteric standpoint, to partake in Langar is to ritually affirm the cosmic equality of spirit, a living sacrament that fuses social justice and mystical equality into one act. Guru Nanak appointed Bhai Lena, later known as Guru Angad, as his spiritual successor, initiating the lineage of 10 human gurus who would transmit, refine, and institutionalize his vision over 2 centuries. This transmission resembles initiatic chains found in other spiritual systems. The apostolic succession of Christian mysticism, the silsila of Sufi orders, or the Guru Parampara of Hindu Tantra. each preserving the current of spiritual energy beyond the individual teacher's lifetime. Sikhism's guruship, however, transcended personality and culminated in the final guru, not a human but a scripture, the Guru Granth Sahib. Thus, text became teacher, sound became embodiment, and divine word, called Shabad, became living presence within the community. The Shabad, or sacred vibration, defines Sikh cosmology as resonant creation, echoing the logos of Greek mysticism, the Om of Hinduism, and the Om Mani Padme Hum of Tibetan Buddhism. In this way, Sikhism blends auditory mysticism with ontological unity. The sound current, called Naad, is both consciousness and creation, and the seeker's goal is to attune to this living resonance through Simran, the meditative remembrance of the divine name. Practically, this manifests in chanting, singing hymns called Kirtan, and silent meditation, each serving to align one's vibration with the infinite. From an entheogenic lens, the ecstatic states induced by Kirtan mirror the transcendence sought in mystical practices involving sacred plant sacraments, sound rituals, or breathing exercises. The medium may differ, but the goal remains identical: the dissolving of self into divine absorption. The early Sikh community thus functioned as both devotional school and esoteric brotherhood, its disciplines designed to awaken consciousness while grounding illumination in compassion and service. In this synthesis, Sikhism speaks not only to religious devotion, but to spiritual transformation, the awakening of universal awareness within human life. From Guru Nanak's revelation of unity arose a lineage of enlightened teachers who carried his light forward, shaping the philosophy, discipline, and symbolic body of Sikh practice. After Guru Nanak's passing, the current of divine wisdom flowed through 9 successive gurus, who shaped the Sikh path into its enduring form. Each guru embodied a distinct aspect of spiritual vision, refining the balance between inner mystical knowledge and outer moral action, translating spiritual revelation into lived experience. In the next section, we'll uncover how these gurus developed a living metaphysical practice, forming one of humanity's most vibrant spiritual systems. The succession of gurus in Sikhism represents not merely lineage, but the transmission of cosmic consciousness from one vessel to another, forming a continuum of revelation that unites transcendence with embodiment. Guru Angad, the second guru, provided the first formal structures of this nascent path, creating the Gurmukhi script, which preserved and recorded the hymns of Guru Nanak and other saints. With this gesture, he sanctified the written word as divine vibration, establishing a linguistic vessel for the sacred Shabad or word. The development of Gurmukhi was more than practical, it was archetypal, giving form to sound, much like runes or Sanskrit syllables embody the vibrational essence of the cosmos. In Sikh cosmology, the written letter is a crystallized tone. Every recitation is a breath re-invoking cosmic order. As the gurus followed, each deepened a facet of the philosophical diamond. Guru Amar Das, the third guru, expanded the Langar and Sangat, emphasizing equality and service as spiritual disciplines. His message harmonized inner enlightenment with social liberation, echoing the tantric concept that worldly life isn't a hindrance to spiritual evolution, but its very theater. He institutionalized the idea that the divine could be realized amidst communal action, a perspective resonant with the Mahayana Buddhist Bodhisattva ideal, or the Sufi ethic of divine servitude, called Khidmat. In the Sikh context, these became visible sacraments rather than distant ideals. The kitchen, the labor field, and the musical hall all transformed into sanctuaries of awakening. Guru Ram Das, the fourth guru, founded the city of Amritsar, literally the pool of nectar, which would become not just a geographic center but a mystical symbol. Water has long represented spiritual purification across civilizations, from the baptismal waters of Christianity to the sacred rivers of India. The nectar pool, called Amrit Sarovar, reflected an inner mystical state, the elixir of immortality drawn not from external ritual but from the awakened name vibrating within consciousness. This inner Amrit, or divine nectar, surfaces repeatedly in Sikh scripture as the immortal essence, tasted through deep meditation, a motif analogous to the entheogenic soma described in the Vedas, or the hidden mana of Christian mysticism. The fluid of light, whether understood metaphorically or experientially, symbolizes the dissolution of self into divine union. With Guru Arjan, the fifth guru, Sikhism reached a pivotal moment both structurally and spiritually. He compiled the Adi Granth, the earliest version of what later would become the Guru Granth Sahib, gathering not only the compositions of the Sikh Gurus, but also those of Hindu Bhakti saints and Sufi mystics, who shared the universal vision of divine oneness. This inclusive canon, which places sacred poetry above sectarian boundaries, manifests one of the deepest esoteric truths, that revelation is not property but resonance. Its theological openness parallels Hermetic traditions in the West, where truth is seen as universal light refracted through various cultures' prisms. Guru Arjan's verses, radiant with mystical longing, declare that the true temple is within, and the true pilgrimage unfolds in the inner journey through remembrance and surrender. His eventual martyrdom under Mughal persecution transfigured the Sikh path, infusing it with the archetype of the enlightened warrior, the soul that holds peace and fortitude in equal measure. This archetypal evolution blossomed under Guru Hargobind, who wore two swords symbolizing Miri, or temporal authority, and Puri, or spiritual sovereignty. His vision rejected the dualism that divides worldly duty from divine contemplation, affirming that the realized soul must actively protect justice and truth. In esoteric terms, this synthesis of Miri and Puri reflects the union of opposites, the Hermetic coincidentia oppositorum, and the alchemical conjunctio, where the microcosmic warrior mirrors the macrocosmic balance of creation itself. This union of male and female, dark and light, conscious and unconscious, can be seen in the alchemical symbol called the rebus, where a king and queen share the same body. Just as the tantric yogi wields power inwardly to overcome delusion, the Sikh warrior embodies spiritual force outwardly to preserve cosmic order. This integration of power and sanctity became the defining seed for the later Khalsa. The next gurus, Har Krishan, and Teg Bahadur, continued to elaborate this sacred lineage, each revealing a distinct hue of divine consciousness. Guru Har emphasized compassion toward all beings, maintaining extensive gardens of healing herbs that symbolize the spiritual pharmacology of the soul. This affinity between spiritual and botanical healing dovetails with the traditions of entheogenic insight across cultures, the understanding that nature itself is a teacher and medicine, and that divine spirit communicates through the forms and fragrances of the world. Guru Har Krishan, the child guru, embodied innocence as conduit for divine grace, suggesting that spiritual realization transcends age, intellect, or social position. Guru Teg Bahadur, whose serenity amid martyrdom earned reverence throughout India, articulated the interior stillness required for liberation. His verses navigate the subtle space between detachment and compassion, echoing Buddhist Vairagya and Advaitic equanimity, while flowing in the Sikh current of remembrance and surrender. All these currents culminated in Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th and final human guru, who shaped the Sikh Panth into a distinct spiritual nation. He established the Khalsa in 1699, the Pure Ones, a collective dedicated to spiritual purity and moral courage. The Khalsa's initiation involved the stirring of sweetened water with a double-edged sword, the Khanda, symbolizing the blending of grace and power, sweetness and strength within the seeker. The nectar consumed in the Amrit Sanchar ceremony represents the same inner Amrit sought through meditation, the soul's baptism into divine remembrance. The outer rite mirrors the inner alchemy where ego dissolves in devotion, awakening the fearless, luminous presence of the divine soldier saint. Guru Gobind Singh's metaphysical contributions extend deep into esoteric territory. His writings, particularly in the Dasam Granth, use archetypal imagery, cosmic metaphors, and mythic language to describe the eternal struggle between ignorance and illumination. This tension is not externalized warfare, but an inner Dharma Yuddha, the battle of awareness overcoming illusion. The Khalsa ideal, seen through an esoteric lens, aligns with the Hermetic Knight, or the Bodhisattva warrior, who merges compassion with discipline, divine love with heroic strength. Gobind Singh's declaration that the Guru Granth Sahib will remain the final and eternal Guru completed the cycle of revelation, shifting the living teacher into sound vibration and sacred text, ensuring the divine presence would remain ever here, ever now. The Guru Granth Sahib, more than a scripture, functions as a sacred matrix of sound and meaning. Within its verses are encoded the maps of consciousness, the vibrational formulas of awakening. A Gurdwara, translating to door to the Guru, is any place of worship that houses the Guru Granth Sahib, the Sikh holy scripture. Serving as the central community gathering place, a Gurdwara is characterized by the presence of the scripture on a raised throne, open door hospitality, and community service. The recitation of Gurbani Kirtan, sacred hymns sung in musical ragas, serve not as entertainment but as sonic yoga, orchestrating the psyche into harmony with divine resonance. In Sikh esoteric psychology, Naad and Shabad are living streams. To attune with them is to enter the flow of creation itself. This theology of sound parallels the Nada Yoga of Hindu mysticism, the Logos doctrine of Neoplatonism, and the Christian contemplative practice of chanting the divine office. Sound becomes the bridge where the infinite speaks through the finite. Structurally, the Sikh Guru's succession may be seen as a tenfold unfolding of divine consciousness, similar to the Tetractys in Pythagorean philosophy, where each Guru represents an aspect of total realization. Compassion, service, bravery, mysticism, sacrifice, sovereignty, and love culminate into the universal ideal of the awakened human, one who lives in remembrance while acting in justice. Their collective work transforms Sikhism into a dynamic synthesis of gnosis and praxis, knowledge and action. The Sikh path does not advocate escape from the world, but participation in it as a sanctified act. To work, serve, and remember becomes meditation in motion. Within the broader esoteric framework, Sikhism represents the golden fusion of the sun and moon currents of tradition, the contemplative mystic and the active hero. It calls upon the same inner transmutation spoken of by alchemists and Taoists, the refinement of grosser elements of the self into subtle light. In this transformation, every Sikh becomes both devotee and adept, dissolving the veil between the spiritual and the material. From the 10 Gurus arose not only a religion, but a living metaphysical system grounded in unity and service, carrying forward echoes of earlier mystical streams. In the next part, we'll explore Sikh cosmology in greater depth, the journey of the soul, the vision of reality, and how these teachings intertwine with universal esoteric dimensions of sound, light, and transcendence, forming a cosmic map of consciousness. The Sikh Gurus described reality not as a distant heaven and fallen earth, but as an infinite ocean of vibrating spirit, a play of divine light in which all beings participate. Understanding this cosmology is key to grasping Sikh mysticism's universal depth. Sikh cosmology begins with sound, the primal Naad, the vibrational pulse through which the infinite radiates creation. In the opening lines of the Japji Sahib, Guru Nanak describes the origin of the cosmos not as an act of linear creation, but as a spontaneous expression of timeless awareness. From the word, the world flows forth. This word, or Shabad, is not a metaphor. It is the energetic substance of existence, comparable to the logos of Hellenistic mysticism, or the Om vibration of Hindu thought. The universe in Sikh understanding is an emanation of divine resonance, continuous, self-aware, and permeated by love. To contemplate this is to glimpse the first key of Sikh esotericism. Ik Onkar is both transcendent and immanent, formless and yet the source of all forms. Unlike dualistic systems that cleave creator and creation, Sikh metaphysics affirms monistic unity, God within the world, yet beyond comprehension. The divine is described as Nirgun, or without attributes, and Sargun, or with attributes, simultaneously, unmanifest and manifest, void and form, silence and song. This paradox aligns Sikh thought with Advaita Vedanta's non-duality, but with a profound difference. Sikhism insists on bhakti, or devotional surrender, as the vehicle through which the intellect surrenders to experiential knowing. It is through love that the One reveals itself to itself. The human soul, or Atma, in Sikh metaphysics is a spark of this infinite flame, a drop of the vast ocean of Waheguru. Born into temporal existence, the soul journeys through cycles of birth and death, ensnared by illusion called Maya, forgetting its source. Yet Maya in Sikhism is not inherently evil. It is the divine play, a theater for awakening. The challenge lies in remembering the truth amid forgetfulness. Through Naam Simran, the remembrance of the divine name, the soul gradually dissolves its separateness and re-emerges with the infinite. This remembrance is both mystical meditation and ethical living. It's less about withdrawal and more about seeing the eternal in all transient forms. Sikh cosmology portrays the universe as a manifestation of divine order, called Hukam. Hukam is both law and flow, the sacred pattern governing all existence. Rather than deterministic fate, Hukam embodies dynamic harmony, the intelligence that balances galaxies and atoms alike. The awakened being lives in alignment with Hukam, accepting joy and sorrow as expressions of the same cosmic rhythm. In esoteric parallels, Hukam mirrors the Taoist spontaneous order, or the Hermetic concept of the divine will manifesting through creation. To abide in Hukam is to dwell in effortless accord with the infinite, free of ego and free of conflict. The concept of karma, or karma, in Sikh thought reinforces this cosmic justice. Actions and intentions leave vibrational imprints that shape the soul's journey. Yet Sikhism transforms karma from a mere ledger of moral cause and effect into a catalyst for transcendence. By awareness and surrender, karma is burned in the fire of divine remembrance. The Gurbani often compares this process to gold purified in flame, the soul tested by the heat of life, emerging luminous through devotion. Thus, liberation called Mukti isn't an escape from the world, but an awakening within it, a return to oneness that can be lived here and now. Mukti in Sikhism and moksha in Hinduism both refer to liberation from the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth called samsara. But Mukti often implies liberation while alive, while moksha implies final, absolute liberation and union with the divine. Nirvana in Buddhism differs by focusing on the blowing out of desire and ego, resulting in a state of emptiness or non-self, rather than merging with the divine self. At the heart of this awakening lies the divine name, Naam. In Sikh mysticism, Naam is not simply a word, but the very essence of God, sound as consciousness itself. Chanting, singing, or silently repeating Naam harmonizes the seeker's vibration with the universal resonance of Waheguru. This is why the Sikh path is musical at its core. Sound heals, orders, and ultimately dissolves the fragmented self. Naam Simran is a psycho-spiritual practice parallel to japa in Hinduism, mantra in Buddhism, zikr in Sufism, or the hesychast prayer tradition in Eastern Christianity, along with the Catholic rosary, each using repetitive sound to still the mind and unveil divine presence. The experiential climax of Naam is beyond ecstasy. It is pure being, where the knower, knowing, and known merge. From an esoteric standpoint, Sikh descriptions of divine love and intoxication open profound analogies to entheogenic consciousness. The Gurus spoke frequently of divine nectar called Amrit that intoxicates the soul beyond worldly pleasure. This nectar, accessed through remembrance, parallels the transformative visions induced by plant sacraments in ancient mystery rites. Yet Sikhism insists that this nectar flows naturally from within. The flower of the heart produces its own soma when contact with the infinite is made. The cup of Naam, recurring in Gurbani, is both inner alchemy and mystical communion, the transformation of perception through grace, not substance. The human experience in this cosmology becomes a field of initiation. Life offers continual trials through which ego is transmuted into transparency. Suffering, separation, and worldly attachments are spiritual crucibles by which the divine tests and refines its own expression within the soul. The ego, called Haumai, the sense of separateness, is described as the great veil obscuring light. In esoteric thought, this corresponds to the shadow of Kabbalah or Kabbalah, or the ignorance called avidya of Buddhism. Sikh spiritual practice, by contrast, treats ego not with condemnation but with compassion. It is simply the rhythm of the divine pretending to forget so that remembrance may begin. To dissolve Haumai through love and service is the central initiatory act in the Sikh path. Visionary imagery within the Guru Granth Sahib offers rich symbolic parallels to the world's esoteric literature. The soul is portrayed as the bride yearning for union with the beloved, an archetype mirrored in the Sufi union of lover and divine, or in the bridal mysticism of Christian saints. The marriage of the soul becomes an esoteric wedding of heaven and earth within consciousness, where polarity ceases. This metaphor reflects an ancient alchemical formula, the conjunctio oppositorum, or union of opposites, where spirit and matter, male and female, become one continuum of energy. Sikh cosmology also envisions multiple realms of consciousness, planes that are not spatial but vibratory. The Gurbani describes countless skies and worlds, each sustained through Naam. Yet the focus is never on escapism or attaining higher planes. All heavens and hells unfold within consciousness here and now. The realms are psychological, experiential states, layers of awareness that reveal how the divine expresses differently according to the vibrations of the mind. This understanding parallels the subtle body cosmologies of tantric yoga, where consciousness ascends through inner centers or chakras, or Kabbalistic ascent through the Sephirot toward Ein Sof. Sikh mysticism distills this ascent into one principle: rise not by effort but by remembrance, the soul lifted on sound's wings. The image of light pervades Sikh scripture as both symbol and metaphysical reality. The divine is eternal radiance, called Jyot, that enters the body as awareness itself. When the Gurbani speaks of illuminating darkness, it describes the awakening of divine intelligence within the individual microcosm. The Lord's light is within everyone, writes Guru Nanak. Recognize your essence and you will see Him everywhere. Here, the esoteric merges with the ethical. Recognition of one's light necessitates reverence for all beings. Thus, Sikh vision erases divisions, not only metaphysical but social. The mystic's unity becomes the revolutionary's equality. In experiential practice, illumination arises through alignment of sound, breath, and remembrance. Meditation in Sikhism, though outwardly simple, conceals deep psycho-spiritual science. Through listening, called Suniai, reciting, called Japai, and embodying, called Manai, the aspirant refines perception until awareness and sound become indistinguishable. This triadic process mirrors initiatory progressions found around the world. The stages of purification, illumination, and union in Christian mysticism, or the symbolic death and rebirth of mystery rites. In Sikh practice, however, these unfold not in isolated monastery or temple, but in everyday life. The kitchen, the field, the family, all become sacred laboratories of realization. Ultimately, Sikh cosmology fuses metaphysical insight with lived immediacy. The infinite Waheguru dances within every particle, and the seeker's task is simply to attune. Liberation is not posthumous, it is the awakening to the eternal now, the state of Sahaj, spontaneous union. Sahaj bears striking resonance with the Taoist Wu Wei, the effortless accord of the realized one moving as part of the cosmic stream. In Sahaj, action is divine play and awareness is constant sacrament. This is Sikh's heaven, not beyond the stars but within every breath. The Sikh view of reality offers a profound vision where light, sound, and consciousness interpenetrate as one radiant presence. But how do these ideas translate into daily spiritual practice? In the next section, we'll explore Sikh meditation, the sacred music of Kirtan, and the inner technologies of remembrance, where mystical sound becomes direct experience of divinity. Naam Simran unfolds in stages. Initially, it's vocal chanting, much like the mantric invocation of Hindu, Buddhist, and Sufi practice. Then it becomes internal murmuring, thoughtless remembrance during daily activity, until finally it ripens into a japa, ceaseless repetition occurring naturally with the rhythm of breathing and heartbeat. In this ultimate form, remembrance requires no conscious effort. The divine name itself breathes through the individual. This transition mirrors the transformation described by Hesse caste monks who internalize the Jesus prayer until it echoes autonomously in the heart. Sikh Simran thus belongs to the universal mystical lineage, where sound becomes the living sign of divine indwelling. Closely related is Kirtan or Kirtan, the singing of sacred hymns from the Guru Granth Sahib. Kirtan transforms collective ritual into sonic revelation. When sung in the prescribed musical modes, called ragas, the verses activate specific emotional and aesthetic states, such as joy, longing, serenity, and devotion, each designed to elevate the listener's consciousness. The response is not intellectual comprehension, but experiential absorption. Melodic vibration bypasses cognition and touches the intuitive spiritual sense. In many kirtan sessions, the atmosphere thickens with sacred energy. The shared rhythm of voices and instruments forms a living mandala where individual egos dissolve. Listeners describe feelings of transcendence, timelessness, and radiant peace, paralleling entheogenic states induced by plant sacraments or deep trance. Yet where entheogenic approaches seek transformation through biochemical gateways, Sikh practice achieves similar expansion through sonic and devotional frequency. Both reveal an ancient truth: consciousness can be tuned. In psychoacoustic research, sustained chanting produces measurable shifts in brainwave activity, increasing coherence between hemispheres and inducing alpha-theta states associated with deep meditative assimilation. Kirtan operates as spiritual neurochemistry, a technology of sound harmonizing the body's internal rhythms with cosmic order. Thus, music becomes medicine, and devotion becomes neuroscience encoded in holiness. The experiential potency of Kirtan and Simran reaches its peak in Saad Sangat, the collective communion of seekers. The spiritual energy of a single devotee multiplies exponentially within group remembrance, a principle mirrored in esoteric circles worldwide. The monastic choir, the Sufi Sama, the Native American peyote chant, and the Amazonian ayahuasca ikaro. Each demonstrates that sacred sound shared becomes a field of transformation, transcending the boundaries of personal consciousness. In Sikhism, this collective resonance builds the Panth, the universal fellowship where God sings through humanity. Balanced alongside these ecstatic practices is the ethical framework of Seva, selfless service. Sikh mysticism rejects the notion that enlightenment belongs only to meditation or ritual. It insists on continual application through compassionate action. Service, whether cooking in a langar, cleaning a temple floor, or helping the community, purifies the ego and grounds transcendence in humility. From the esoteric perspective, Seva functions as the alchemical earth element, rooting cosmic energy into tangible reality. Without service, spiritual intoxication risks dissociation. With service, it matures into embodied wisdom. Daily disciplines, or rahat, formalizes this integration. The Rahat Maryada, the Sikh code of conduct, outlines practices preserving purity and integrity. These include rising early for meditation, maintaining honest livelihood, abstaining from intoxicants, and living in remembrance throughout the day. The injunction against chemical intoxication may appear to contrast sharply with entheogenic traditions. Yet, esoterically, Sikhism redirects intoxication inward. Naam itself becomes wine, the breath the chalice. The state achieved through internal remembrance mirrors externally induced ecstasy without dependence on substance. Spiritual chemistry conducted entirely through devotion and sound vibration. Both approaches, when properly understood, seek the same realization: the dissolution of separateness into unity. Morning meditation, known as Amrit Vela, epitomizes this practice. During the ambrosial hours before dawn, the period of heightened subtle energy, Sikhs rise to recite the Japji Sahib and engage in Simran. This timing aligns with circadian and energetic rhythms recognized across mystical systems. This is the same window pursued by yogic Brahma Muhurta meditation and Benedictine matins, the transitional hour between night and day where spiritual perception sharpens. In Sikh practice, it symbolizes entering the pool of nectar within consciousness, drinking the dawn's luminous essence before worldly noise begins. The experience brings clarity, humility, and peace, described as tasting the inner Amrit of divine remembrance. The pinnacle of Sikh practice is Anand, or ecstatic bliss. The Anand Sahib, one of Sikhism's central hymns, celebrates the culmination of devotion in spontaneous joy, the soul bursting into song without reason or restraint. This Anand is identical to the mystical rapture described by Plotinus, Saint Teresa, or the ecstatic adepts of Sufi and Bhakti devotion. In Sikhism, however, bliss carries ethical charge. The ecstatic heart radiates compassion outward. Joy becomes justice. Rapture becomes service. The mystic's ecstasy is an act of revolution, dissolving greed and division through recognition of divine unity in all. Within entheogenic frameworks, Anand equates to peak experience, wherein perception dissolves and universal empathy arises. Both paths converge upon the same mountain, self-transcendence through surrender. Within Sikh practice, meditation and service merge, producing a lived mysticism, attainable by anyone willing to listen, remember, and love. In the following section, we'll turn to Sikh symbolism, the 5 Ks, the sacred architecture, and the deeper esoteric meanings encoded in both the microcosm and the macrocosm. Sikhism expresses its deepest truths not through scripture and song, but through form, through symbols, architecture, and sacred objects that act as living metaphors of divine realization. Each symbol in the Sikh path bridges physical life and spiritual ideal, embodying timeless principles resonant with the world's esoteric heritage. The external markers of the faith, namely the turban and the 5 Ks, acquire mystical dimension. They are not mere cultural symbols but protective seals, each anchoring a principle of inner integrity and energy. Central to Sikh identitarian symbolism are the 5 Ks, which are 5 articles of faith worn by initiated Sikhs who have entered into the order of the Khalsa. Each begins with the letter K, and they are as follows: Kesh, or uncut hair; Kunga, or wooden comb; Kara, or steel bracelet; Kachera, or cotton undergarments; and Kirpan, or ceremonial sword. While outwardly markers of equality and commitment, esoterically these objects form a symbolic mandala that integrates the spiritual with the corporeal, transforming the body of the believer into a temple of living divinity. Kesh, the unshorn hair, is the first and perhaps the most misunderstood. In Sikh teaching, hair is not vanity but antenna, natural extensions of pranic energy and symbols of surrender to divine will. The human being crowned with hair represents the flowering of consciousness toward heaven. From a metaphysical standpoint, retaining one's natural form signifies acceptance of hukam, the divine order, without artificial interference. Esoterically, hair mirrors the ancient ascetic traditions where sages allowed locks to grow as external expressions of inner renunciation. In physiologic metaphor, each strand becomes a channel of subtle current, connecting body and cosmos, just as the roots of a tree connect heaven and earth. The kunga, the wooden comb, accompanies the hair to preserve cleanliness and order. This balance of wildness and discipline reflects Sikhism's integration of spontaneity and restraint. The comb represents purification through awareness, the continual grooming of thoughts and actions to maintain clarity. Just as the yogic mind must be combed free of tangles of desire, the Sikh keeps inner and outer life neat, functional, and harmonious. From an alchemical framework, the Kanga represents the air, the element of mental purification and discernment. The act of combing parallels intellectual refinement, leading to spiritual lucidity. The Kara, the steel bracelet encircling the wrist, serves as a reminder that the hand, instrument of action, must serve divine purpose. Its circular shape symbolizes the infinity of God, without beginning or end, and the integrity of the soul in its orbit of duty. Made of steel, it conveys discipline, resilience, and unbreakable connection to the Guru's word. Anthropologically, wrist bangles mark ritual identity across cultures, from Egyptian scarab bracelets to Tibetan dorje cuffs, symbolizing spiritual power. The Sikh Kara harmonizes these meanings. It is both seal and circuit, conducting spiritual current through remembrance and deed. To act while wearing it is to participate consciously in the cycle of hukum. Kachera, the knee-length cotton garment, functions not merely as clothing but as symbolic armor of chastity, discipline, and self-restraint. The garment's purity mirrors the integrity of thought and moral temperance expected of the Khalsa. Within esoteric psychology, this corresponds to mastery of vital energy, the sublimation of life force from base impulse to creative devotion. As yogis channel ojas upward through the spinal current, the Sikh integrates that same energy through ethical purity and attentive awareness, translating sexual control into spiritual vigor. The Kachera thus represents the water element, containment without repression, a vessel of stored strength flowing into loving action. The final article, the Kirtan, the ceremonial sword, unites material and spiritual courage. It is both weapon and symbol of dharmic protection, calling the Sikh to defend truth and the oppressed. Esoterically, the Kirtan signifies discernment, the cutting blade of wisdom that severs ignorance. Its dual edges correspond to knowledge and compassion. One reveals illusion, the other preserves life. In Hermetic and Tantric traditions alike, the sword of spirit is a recurrent motif, drawn against ego's darkness. The Sikh Kirtan transforms this archetype into lived ethics, a tool not for conquest, but for preservation of justice, rooted in divine remembrance. Within the mystical anatomy of the Khalsa, the Kirtan occupies the role of fire, illuminating, purifying, and empowering. Taken together, the 5 Ks form a pentagrammic symmetry of the human being grounded in spirit. Kaish or ether, Kanga or air, Kara or earth, metal, Kachera or water, and Kirtan or fire. The Khalsa thus becomes a walking alchemical quintessence, a living star of realized balance. The body itself reflects cosmic harmony. Outer symbol mirrors inner transmutation. For seekers of esoteric insight, these articles are not simply cultural mandates, but energetic sigils designed to maintain constant remembrance in motion, transforming even mundane life into holy ritual. Beyond personal symbolism, Sikh sacred architecture magnifies this principle of embodiment through geometric and acoustic precision. The quintessential example is the Harmandir Sahib, the Golden Temple of Amritsar. Bathed in radiance and built around the Amrit Sarovar, the pool of nectar, its structure communicates theology through proportion and direction. 4 entrances open to the cardinal directions, signifying universality and the breaking of caste and creed. The temple's lowered floor demands physical humility upon entry. Descent becomes ascent, ego bowing to divine ground. The polished water basin encircling the shrine reflects the sky, merging celestial and terrestrial worlds in shimmering unity. Acoustically, the Golden Temple amplifies Kirtan so that the sacred sound flows over the water, producing a sonic field often described as divine intoxication. Devotees experience auditory vibration as tangible blessing, resonating through bone and heart. This phenomenon illustrates Sikhism's auditory cosmology, where the universe itself is heard rather than seen. In symbolic architecture, the Temple of Amritsar parallels humanity's perennial sacred centers. The Kaaba's geometric stillness, the mandala of Borobudur, the Gothic cathedral singing through stained glass. Each seeks to inscribe cosmic harmony upon earthly soil, transforming space into sonic meditation. Even the choice of gold holds esoteric weight. Alchemically, gold represents perfected consciousness, the incorruptible state achieved through transmutation of base nature. The shimmering temple reminds every pilgrim that liberation is not elsewhere. It gleams within when awareness is purified by humility and service. The reflection of its golden walls upon water completes the alchemical image. Spirit mirrored in matter, heaven reflected in earth, the divine self perceiving itself in the world's shimmering illusion. Within Sikh communal architecture, the pairing of shrine and kitchen, or Durbar Sahib and Langar Hall, embodies the union of contemplation and action, mysticism and service. To sing divine praise and then serve food from the same ground enacts the integration of transcendence and material compassion. No souls sit higher than others, all partake from shared vessels. The Langar becomes the philosopher's table of fraternity, the esoteric experiment in dissolving separation through embodied equality. In esoteric comparative terms, it transforms the Eucharistic principle into social praxis. Sacred communion made daily through collective nourishment. Sikh symbols therefore carry a unitive aesthetic that transcends cultural boundaries. The turban, for instance, not only identifies dignity and discipline, but signifies the coiling of energy around the crown chakric center. The Sikh turban or dastar is an essential article of faith worn by men and some women to represent equality, royalty, and spirituality, mandated to protect uncut hair or caste. Wound clockwise, each layer stabilizes the subtle vortices of awareness, containing spiritual current and radiating nobility. This corresponds to the Egyptian nemes, the Tibetan topknot, or Sufi imamah, head coverings signifying crown consciousness attained through inner sovereignty. Sikh tradition democratizes this emblematizing of sainthood. Every devotee bears the crown once reserved for kings and ascetics. The vibrant colors of the Sikh flag, called the Nishan Sahib, extend further symbolism. Its saffron or deep orange background denotes courage and sacrifice, while the emblem at its center, the Khanda, condenses Sikh metaphysics into geometry. The Khanda shows a double-edged sword flanked by two curved blades called kirpans and encircled by a circular chakar. The central sword epitomizes the unifying word cutting through duality. The curved blades indicate spiritual and temporal authority, Piri and Miri, and the circle evokes infinity. Viewed esoterically, this emblem is a mandala of cosmic balance, the perfected human poised at the intersection of spirit and action. Much like the yin-yang or yin-yang and the caduceus, the Khanda encapsulates polarity resolved in unity. These symbols, living and geometric alike, function as mnemonic devices, visual mantras evoking remembrance of divine presence in all spheres of life. Through these sacred forms, Sikhism translates invisible truths into living art, through golden light, resonant sound, and the geometry of equality. In our final section, we'll explore how Sikh wisdom extends beyond doctrine, examining its influence on global esoteric thought, and how its message of unity, sound, and service forms a bridge toward the entheogenic and mystical renaissance of our age. As we reach the culmination of this exploration, Sikhism stands revealed not only as a religion, but as a luminous philosophy of consciousness, relevant across mystical and scientific boundaries alike. Its synthesis of devotion, action, and awareness bridges the ancient pursuit of divine union with humanity's evolving understanding of higher states of mind. Sikhism's esoteric heartbeat pulses with the same rhythm that animates humanity's mystical heritage. At its core lies an experiential revelation. The infinite is not apart. It sings through breath, work, and compassion. The Gurus articulated truths long sought by mystics, shamans, and philosophers. The direct knowledge of unity, accessible through remembrance and ethical alignment. When we study Sikhism through a universal lens, we recognize it as both culmination and continuation of a perennial philosophy that transcends temple walls and cultural lines. Across ages, mystics of every lineage have described their encounters with the divine using common language. Light, sound, vibration, and intoxication of spirit. The Sikh doctrine of Naam corresponds precisely to these vocabularies of direct communion. The act of chanting Waheguru, the wondrous name, creates a vibrational field within consciousness that resembles the unitive experience recorded in the world's entheogenic and contemplative traditions. While Sikh practice abstains from external intoxicants, it produces internal illumination, identical in structure to heightened states observed through plant sacraments and visionary meditations. In this correspondence, Sikhism emerges as an inner entheogenesis, a flowering of biochemical bliss through sound and devotion rather than ingestion. Modern consciousness studies confirm what mystics have always known. Sustained devotional focus alters the chemistry of perception. Dopamine and serotonin pathways, those same channels activated in entheogenic states, respond to rhythmic chanting and communal song. The result is spiritual euphoria, a surrender of separate identity into radiant unity. In other words, Sikhism maps the mechanics of divine realization through the human nervous system, replacing pharmacological catalysts with psychoacoustic devotion. The ecstatic Sikh singing, called Kirtan, becomes spontaneous alchemy, sound as medicine, emotion as transmutation, community as catalyst. The entheogenic parallel reaches even deeper when examined symbolically. The Amrit or nectar of immortality, celebrated throughout Sikh scripture, mirrors the archetype of sacred elixir found worldwide. The Vedic Soma, the Greek ambrosia, the Taoist golden dew, and the visionary vine of souls of the Amazon. Each represents transformation through divine ingestion, but Sikhism internalizes the process. The body itself brews the nectar when awareness merges with the infinite. Guru Arjan describes this inner elixir as the sweetness that intoxicates without drink, the bliss that awakens beyond sleep. Such testimony recalls the spontaneous neurochemical cascades accompanying enlightenment, the mystical physiology where devotion generates its own wine. Seen from the esoteric standpoint, the Sikh concept of Amrit Vela, the ambrosial hours before dawn, designates not mere time but archetypal alchemy. The darkness before light mirrors the pre-manifest void before creation sound. Meditation at that hour reenacts cosmic genesis. From silence arises vibration, from vibration awareness, from awareness compassion. Every morning the devotee recreates the universe within, embodying the eternal moment Guru Nanak described, when, from the word, the worlds emerged. Such cyclical recreation parallels the Hermetic maxim, as above, so below. Each meditation an echo of creation itself. When Sikh mysticism speaks of the Sahaj state, or spontaneous harmony, it evokes a condition identical to the Zen notion of Satori, the Advaitic Turiya, and the Taoist Wu Wei, effortless awareness beyond duality. Sahaj is living enlightenment, not withdrawal but participation. It dissolves the dichotomy between sacred and secular, restoring reality to seamless presence. For entheogenic philosophies seeking integration of vision and action, Sahaj provides a blueprint. To remain awakened in the marketplace, luminous amid daily life. Thus, the Sikh's transcendence is practical, grounded in compassion, and sustained in rhythm with humanity's collective heartbeat. In modern spiritual studies, Sikhism represents a uniquely balanced paradigm between mystical experience and ethical activism. Where certain traditions emphasize solitude and asceticism, Sikhism insists upon community and service. The Langar and Seva practices institutionalize compassion as sacrament. Within Entheogenic interpretation, this equates to post-vision integration, the manifestation of insight through altruism. After experiencing oneness, the Sikh must act as one with all. Spirituality without social conscience remains incomplete. This theorem finds confirmation across psychological models of integration after peak states. Enduring insight requires compassionate embodiment, exactly what Sikh practice prescribes. The esoteric universality of Sikh thought becomes clearer when compared with global mystical frameworks. In Kabbalah or Kabbalah, the infinite radiates through 10 emanations, called the Sephirot, each balancing power and mercy. Likewise, the 10 Sikh Gurus unfold as human emanations of divine attributes, culminating in perfect equilibrium within the eternal scripture. In Taoism, harmony arises from circular balance between yin and yang, or yin and yang. The Sikh Khanda emblem expresses this geometry through its curved blades and central sword of unity. In Christian mysticism, the eternal word becomes flesh. In Sikhism, the eternal Shabad sings through humanity. Everywhere we find the variation on the same cosmic pattern, whether the word, the light, or the love. And Sikhism carries that pattern forward with distilled clarity. The Sikh Gurus reframed spiritual initiation for a democratic age. Their teaching abolished priestly intermediaries and caste hierarchies, asserting that direct communion belongs to everyone. From an esoteric viewpoint, this democratization of mysticism marks evolutionary leap, the sacred leaving the exclusive temple and inhabiting the collective heart. The Panth, community of equals, replaces secret lodge or hidden monastery with open fellowship, where each participant bears the mantle of saint and soldier. In many ways, this anticipates the current global awakening, a grassroots mysticism emerging from ordinary lives rather than institutional authority. As modern humanity explores expanded consciousness through neurotechnological and entheogenic avenues, Sikhism offers ethical compass and experiential counterpart. Its sound-based technologies, like chant, rhythm, and meditation, produce measurable alterations in perception while maintaining moral anchorage. This ensures that transcendence does not spiral into egoic escapism. In the Sikh vision, enlightenment must serve the world. Bliss must translate into justice. Such grounding provides an essential template for contemporary seekers, balancing visionary experience with global responsibility. The esoteric implications extend into symbolic ecology. Sikh cosmology reveres balance between masculine and feminine principles, expressed as the soul bride seeking union with the beloved. This archetype mirrors universal mythic structures, the hieros gamos, or sacred marriage, signifying restoration of cosmic wholeness. Culturally, this archetype instills gentle devotion within strength, nurturing compassion within courage, ensuring that empowerment never divorces empathy. In a world divided by power imbalances, rediscovering this inner marriage may be humanity's needful alchemy. Modern contemplative science confirms the metaphysical insight Sikhism has embodied for centuries. Consciousness itself is a vibrational field, responsive to rhythm, love, and intentional service. Neuroscience, heart rate studies, and quantum theories of coherence all echo Guru Nanak's revelation. The One sings through all. What Sikhism contributes to the entheogenic conversation is confirmation that ecstasy is not anomaly, but natural potential awakened through disciplined devotion. The Gurus demonstrated through life and poetry that hearing the infinite requires only silence, sincerity, and song. The external sacrament may assist, but the inner wine is perpetual. The convergence of esoteric and scientific thought places Sikh mysticism at a crucial juncture in the modern renaissance of consciousness. Its philosophy of unity through remembrance mirrors emerging paradigms of non-dual awareness found in transpersonal psychology, quantum spirituality, and integrative neuroscience. Sikh practice embodies what these disciplines theorize: the lived, repeatable method of awakening connectivity without dependence on substance or doctrine. It stands as a bridge between ancient gnosis and contemporary research, between traditional devotion and experimental spirituality. Ultimately, Sikhism's message to the modern seeker is simplicity veiled in radiance. Remember the One, serve all, and see divinity in every face. Its esoteric anatomy of sound, light, and nectar is universal. Whether the path is through mantra, drum, plant, or prayer, the summit remains identical: dissolution of separateness into love. Sikhism teaches that this summit is not distant. It rises within every moment of kindness, every breath whispered with Waheguru, every act performed with selfless care. The Gurus envisioned humanity as an orchestra, each person a note contributing to the divine symphony. Their vision resounded across centuries, influencing poets, philosophers, scientists, and reformers who sought unity amidst division. In our era of expanding awareness, through meditative experiment, entheogenic exploration, and cosmological rediscovery, the Sikh call reverberates anew. Awaken without fear, serve without motive, and sing without end. In this synthesis, Sikhism emerges as a luminous keystone within the vast arch of world esotericism, an embodied testament that mystical experience need not retreat from the world, but can transfigure it. Its devotional sound techniques parallel entheogenic ecstasy. Its ethical framework secures that ecstasy in compassion. Its architecture and symbols externalize unity, and its communal ethos ensures that enlightenment remains shared. Few other spiritual systems harmonize inner and outer so seamlessly. To study Sikhism, therefore, is to encounter the perennial mystery sung in a universal accent, the melody of one light reflecting through infinite forms. Whether heard in the golden vibrations of Kirtan or in the heartbeat following a plant vision, the truth remains the same. Creation is music, consciousness is resonance, and love is destiny. The Sikh path simply offers tuning instructions for the instrument of the soul. Sikhism reveals that mysticism does not need to withdraw from life. It can thrive within service, beauty, and song. Its wisdom reminds us that the infinite is present in every breath, that the nectar of consciousness is found within the heart, and that unity, above all, is not an idea, but an experience. May every seeker hear that call and answer Waheguru. This concludes our Eastern esoteric journey. We have now explored the Eastern and Western facets of global esotericism. Our organization S.E.E.K, the Society for Esoteric and Entheogenic Knowledge, exists to study the esoteric, but we also exist to study the entheogenic. In our next series of videos, we'll study the entheogenic or psychedelic visionary plants at the heart of global spiritual history. We'll begin with the Paleolithic and the earliest traces of entheogenic ritual in the world. What will we uncover? Like and subscribe to find out. Thank you for watching. Find more at joinseek.org.